Welcome to Elevate, where we explore the intersection of leadership, culture, and well-being. Join us as we embark on a journey to empower both individuals and organizations to reach new heights of success and fulfillment. I'm your host, Lyndsay Dowd, and together, let's elevate the way we work and live. Hello, my friends. I'm really excited to introduce you to our next guest. Her name is Lyndsay Dowd. She is a speaker, a keynote speaker, and she has a podcast, which is in the top 5% globally. The name of it is Heartbeat for Hire. She has two books, one that's called Top Down Culture. She has a 25-year span in sales leadership. She is an amazing individual. I met her through the Outlier Project retreat that I went to, and she's become a very good friend. So I'm so excited for you to hear her story. I think you're going to learn a whole lot.
So anyway, so what you say in your podcast was, what's your story?
Yeah,
So
that's
tell
how
me
I
your
start every
story.
show. That's right. And it's, telling your story is a life skill that most of my guests know, and they do it very well, but there are a lot of people that don't. But I'll tell you my story. So I spent 25 years in corporate America, and 23 of them were climbing the ranks at IBM. And I came from a really big blue legacy. My family put in 105 years there. So my dad, my husband, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, we all bled
Wow.
blue. And at the end of 23 years, well, everyone thought I was going to die there, but I didn't. And at the end of 23 years, I was sought out by another company. They said, "Come over. Would you run a sales team for us?" 'Cause that's what I used to do. And I took my big blue legacy and off I went. And 6 months later, they fired me. And I
Mm,
was gutted. I was beside myself. I was sure that I was the only executive to ever be fired. I was confident that no one would ever want to work with me again. And I felt like I had a scarlet letter on my chest. And for a month, I just kind of sat in a puddle and I asked myself three questions. What am I really good at? What do I love to do? And how can I help people the most? And I knew how to build modern leaders and I knew how to create irresistible culture that drives results. So I started my company, Heartbeat for Hire. I started coaching leaders in C suites. I started keynoting. I learned everything there was to know about LinkedIn and started offering LinkedIn courses. And as you know, I started my podcast. And that has been over the course of the last almost 3 years, 2.5 years. And now I made a pivot and I am still have my podcast. I'm still keynoting, but I'm the chief revenue officer for a company called Intrigue. And we are focused on giving job seekers and companies the best tools on the market and the best coaches on the market to help them land the job of their dreams.
that is so incredible. What a great story. To rise above all of that and probably you're loving your life much better and
Oh,
probably being let go was the best thing that ever happened to you.
I mean, I call it the shove out of the nest. But it
Mhm.
was, I mean, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur in that. I
Right.
really didn't plan on it. I liked working with teams. I liked leading teams. It was totally my sweet spot. So I thought, but had I not been pushed out of the nest, I would never have started my podcast. I would never have written the first book, let alone the second book. And I wouldn't have joined a community like the Outlier Project. I wouldn't have curated this phenomenal network of humans who are my personal board of advisors who kick my butt regularly and tell me I can do really hard things. And it was an incredible growing experience that I don't recommend people get fired, but I sure do recommend you do the rest of the stuff.
Right, exactly, exactly. That is so inspiring. I was reading all about you. Of course, I got to spend the time with you on the retreat and got to know
Yes.
you personally. I didn't realize that you had twins, and
Yes.
so I have twins as well. And so
Yeah.
mine are 20, though.
Oh,
They're out of the house, and they've done some of the fun things like you were talking on your post this morning
oh.
about, changing the hair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for those listening, my son I have 16-year-old twins, and my son texted me last night, and he said, "Mom, would you be mad if I bleached my hair?" And I kind of paused for a second, and I said, "Nope, I won't be mad, but I just don't think you're gonna like it." His hair is really dark, just like his
Mhm.
dad's, and, I told him it was going to get real orange. And I think they were kind of going for more of like that white bleached hair. And it turns out he and the rest of his soccer team look like a troop of heat misers, from the old movie. So it's very orange, very yellow, and I can't stop laughing.
Oh gosh, it keeps life interesting though, right?
100%. Can't wait for more family photos with that.
Uh, oh my gosh. So these two books that you wrote. So tell me a little bit about those.
Sure.
So you wrote both of them in the past 2 years?
Yeah, so top down culture, it was interesting. I didn't plan on being an author either. And my publisher reached out to me and she just was like, "You have a story to tell, and I want to help you tell it." And top down culture, it's the same way that I keynote, it's the same way that I speak. It's a collection of stories about great leaders and tragic ones and a lot in between. And my friends that know me who read it tell me they feel like they're sitting next to me when they're reading it. It's very authentic. It's my voice, which I'm very happy about. So that book was pretty wild. I'd never obviously written a book. I had nothing to compare it to, but my publisher said, we are going to write this book and have it hit the market in 90 days. And I was like, how are we doing that? But what I learned about myself was that I'm a really good talker, and I'm a better talker than I am a writer. And we did it podcast style. So we basically built the structure of the book, and she would record me on chapter one. This is the topic, go. And so I would talk, 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 talk. And we had a ghostwriter transcribe it. And the first draft, I'll tell you, Annette, I was horrified. I'm like, what did I get myself into? This is awful. This is written exactly how I speak. And this is
Yeah.
this is so unprofessional. No way. And what I didn't realize is they were getting used to my voice, and they really were just giving verbatim what I said. And once we got a little more in the groove, it got way better. But yes, we did the entire process in 90 days, which was amazing and terrifying. No one tells you that when you write a book that the hardest part isn't writing the book, it's letting it go. And once it's
Right.
out into the world, your heart is out there and anyone can stomp on it or they can tell you they love it. But that moment of faith of, okay, I did this. It's out there now.
Right.
I just have to trust. So that was the first book. And then the second book is an anthology. So 22 women tell their stories in this book. And this publisher was based in Scotland. So it's an international anthology and it's all about leadership and super inspiring stories from women all around the world who have very different experiences. Some of it is business, some of it is familial, some of it is cultural, but these stories are empowering and uplifting, and we all need more of that.
Right. I definitely agree with that because sometimes, especially successful women, they sometimes feel alone, you
Yeah,
know, because there's 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 a feeling of being like if you're especially in the leader position and you're mostly with around men, right?
mhm, my whole career.
There's not as many women in
No,
those leadership positions. And so if you're successful, you don't want the rest of the folks to know just how vulnerable and you are until you get older and you realize, hey, that's actually
well,
a pretty good thing.
that's such a great point, Annette. And I grew up in tech. I mean, at IBM, I was the only woman on many, many teams, and
Mhm.
the leadership examples that I had were rough. I mean, they used sports analogies for games I didn't care about, for teams I didn't
Right,
watch, and that didn't inspire me. That didn't get me excited. I couldn't relate to these guys, and they also led by intimidation and fear and belittling, and none of that inspired me. And I didn't have very many other examples of what leadership really should look like. So when that leader finally did arrive, I was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to feel.
Right.
And I wouldn't know how impactful those people were until later. And then I started collecting all these stories and really remembering them and how it shaped me. But the bad lessons were as important as the good ones. And I think it's on all of us women to shine the light, to share the joy, to lift others up. Because when you create that space for people to shine, A, it looks good on you, but B, it's contagious and you never know who's watching. And I was fortunate. I got to lead some really big organizations and I created environments that were fun, inspired. I called my team Mavericks and Hustlers, and they wore that proudly. And I was of the mindset that if someone wanted to leave my team to go try something else, I always supported them. And people would be like, I can't believe you're letting Jackie leave so early. She's only been here 6 months. And I said, yeah, but I only want people here who want to be here. So, of course, I'm going to support her and let her go. And if I told her she couldn't, what kind of work would she do?
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree with that because I've had people leave me before and I go, like, and they'll be so upset and don't want to tell me and crying on the phone. And I go, like, listen, I don't blame you for improving your opportunities,
Yeah.
and your family. I mean, this is about you. You're my
Yeah.
friend first. I mean, you're somebody I care about as an individual first, and
Yeah.
that's good for you. If I've helped you move on to a better place, then that means a lot to me. So
I
I've never
agree.
been upset with anybody leaving me before. And going back to what you said about how actually it's the problematic times, the challenges, the obstacles that have like helped us grow
Yeah.
the most, especially the really hard times. That is when
Yeah.
I think I've come out on the other side 10 times stronger than
Mhm.
before that because
Yeah,
it
and you
opened
you
my
know
eyes.
when you're never gonna lead like the way someone terrible would lead. I think when you have those moments that are so gut-wrenching and so painful, you vow to yourself you would never repeat that, and I have many of those stories, and, I use those as teachable moments, because it's important for people to understand, and I think, when I keynote and I ask people who here in the room has had a bad leader, 100% of the room raises their hand. And if I
Right,
say, "Who here has had a great leader?" Not as many, maybe half.
right, right,
And when you have no examples of good leadership in your immediate purview, it's on me and on you and on all the rest of us that are passionate about this subject to share what good leadership looks and feels like because they're certainly not seeing it. And that's why I do my show and that's why I wrote the book and that's why I loved come on these shows because we can share and somebody might be like, ah, what she said, that's how I'm going to move forward. So that's what I hope to inspire.
Oh, and you definitely do. You definitely do. I can see it from the podcast. I see it from your
Thank you.
face. I see about the people who are around you. And that's why I wanted to have you, visit with us today because I felt like that message definitely resonates with me.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to get out more to not just the women, but in the workforce, but the
Oh,
men as well.
it's
That,
everybody.
yeah,
It's everybody.
yeah,
And
you like we're all growing together, but
mhm,
these experiences that you have and that I have and our guests have had are valuable.
they are.
Getting that
I
word out, like you can be authentic, you don't have to be perfect. You need to have these honest conversations. You need to be able to trust
That's
your
right.
leadership and they need to know that they don't have to be perfect all the time. Yeah.
Well, and you also don't have to be a people leader to be a
Yeah.
leader. You can absolutely be part of a team and still show up as a leader. And I think so many people think, well, I'm not a leader, so I can't do this. No, you absolutely can. You can shine the light on someone else. You can say, I love how Jimmy did that today. That was such a game changing move. You guys, listen to him tell the story. Can we talk about this on the next team call? You're stepping up, you're being a
Right.
leader. If in the software world, I worked with tons and tons of reps. They had choices on where they sold. They didn't have to work with me on my accounts. They could go sell anywhere. But I had to make my environment the most lucrative, the most fun, the most, igniting, the most exciting. I wanted them to be like, she's a blast. I'm going to go work with her. Let's go crush it. And when I did that and I gave them the space to do the jobs they were hired for, it was magic. But whether you're a people leader or not, you have opportunities to do that. And I don't want people to forget that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm excited for you and I'm excited about this new role. So tell me about this new role as Chief
Yeah.
Revenue Officer. I
Yeah.
love that
So
role. I mean, the title, it's like cool.
it's really cool, and it's still very on brand, which was something that was really important to me. As you know, like helping people and connecting with people is huge for me in my world. And how it evolved was in July. My CEO, her name's Jennifer Sathry. She had a vision. She already had this company called Intrigue, and they have patented software around resumes. And specifically, there is something called the applicant tracking system that a lot of companies use. So ATS is the acronym. And when your resume goes to a company, if you're seeking a job that they're hiring for, they filter the resumes because they get hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes per job. So they filter the resumes, and then your resume may or may not make it through. Now, there are 127 potential pitfalls that you could make on a resume that would help you never see the light of day.
Oh,
And
wow.
Jen proved this, and she patented this technology, which is it's unbelievable. But she had this vision to take not only her resume expertise in technology, but back in July, she wanted to create a boot camp for job seekers. And so this was this 2-day career accelerator for anybody that was on the market looking for a job. And it was a full frontal 360-degree approach. So you got 4 or 5 versions of a new resume. You got your unique value prop. So how do you tell your story in small, medium, and large? An optimized LinkedIn profile with a graphic design banner and a curated headline. You got to talk with recruiters. You got interviewing tips and techniques. You got your job search strategy defined. You got salary negotiation. And most importantly, we did a whole thing on mental health because this is hard stuff. And so the value was phenomenal. The results were unbelievable because every single person in that initial cohort found a job. So we were super proud of our 100% success rate.
That
Then
is incredible.
between July and September, we were working on the next boot camp, and 6 really big, really recognizable Fortune 100 companies reached out to Jen to say, I want that as my outplacement services. So when they lay
Oh,
people off
wow.
or do a riff, they provide career coaching or whatever. They loved our methodology. They loved our approach. And so Jen looked at me and she's like, I have a big opportunity here. Do you want to talk about this? And so she offered me the role. We negotiated. It was the right thing for me, the right thing for her. And we've since identified 9 revenue streams and we are building something from nothing. And oh, Jen is a total visionary, by the way. She was the creator of the pre-lit Christmas tree. This is her like 5th company that she's led. So she understands how to do this, and I am more the sales, the structure, the how can we execute to get it done. So we complement each other really nicely. But it's super exciting. We've got a lot to build. But again, it's helping people in one of the most vulnerable times of their life land on their feet and do it with grace.
Right. So 2 badass women. Like,
Yeah,
I'm just, that has got to be so much fun, and
it
you're
is.
doing exactly what, is true to your nature, and you're helping other people,
Yeah,
find their dream job. I mean, that's really cool because it's tough. It's tough
it's
out there. I've seen
super,
it with,
super hard.
friends and actually my son.
Yeah.
He
And
just
the
went
higher
through,
you get in the
yeah.
ranks, if you're an executive, the longer the search will be. So, anyone that thinks, oh, I'm just going to update my resume and off I go. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
There's so much more to it. And what happens with these people that come through our career accelerator, they leave with this incredible confidence. They leave with a personal brand. They leave with a strategy, and they're not afraid to network. They're not afraid to reach out to people they've never met before, and giving them that power. Oh, it's a delight to watch. It's really cool.
That is cool. That is cool. And I see that Jennifer's gonna, allow you to still do your podcast, which
Yes.
I think is really important, until
Yeah.
still speak, because you do have a really fantastic message
Thank
that
you.
a lot of people need to continue to hear. Because, like you said, we're shaping the way that the business world is going. And it's not just the business world. I've seen girls come up to
Oh,
me and, like, I'm getting my hair done, and they go,
mhm.
like, your podcast, when you talked about this, really resonated with me. And it
Mhm.
had, because some of the things we talk about is about life too, right? And
Course.
it's
Oh
like,
gosh. I
it's
mean,
how
there's
you show up.
parenting. There, I mean, and
Yeah,
that's the beautiful thing about a show. I mean, my show, I've got Olympians, I've got CEOs, I've got doctors and scientists and world champion athletes, and they all have very different perspectives. But that's the beautiful thing. We can talk about a myriad of topics, but
right.
leadership isn't just business. And,
Yeah.
this example of my son last night dyeing his hair, bleaching his hair, I had a choice. I could have he texted me and he's like, "Mom, would you be really mad if I bleached my hair?" And I said, took a breath and I was like, "No, but I think you might really regret it." And
Yeah.
had I said, "No, don't do it," first of all, he would have run out and done it anyway, and that would have caused a rift, and that would have been like, "I told you not to do this and you did it anyway. That was disrespectful," etc. But instead, I chose to let him do what he's going to do, and we can't stop laughing, and we created a new memory, and we're going to create some really funny family pictures because that is
Oh
a
yeah.
memory that he will never forget. And it is orange. It is not blonde. It is not cute. But he's a cute kid. So maybe he can pull it off.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is that hair can grow out.
Yes. Yes.
It's not like a tattoo where it's like
Yeah.
permanent.
He did already ask me for a haircut on Saturday. So he's like, "Can you please take me?" I said, "Already?"
So this has been the fun thing too about doing these podcasts, is like talking to people who seem to have, like, they just seem to have everything all together. And
No,
and then you start talking to them and they tell their story and you realize they're just like us. They
100%.
have, you know, but challenges in their life, and they have, like, my son is, like, bleaching his hair, or the dog situation or whatever. I mean, being able to share those real life stories makes it seem like someone who's watching this, maybe beginning their career, they're going like, oh, so I don't have to be perfect.
I love that you brought this up,
Yeah.
and this is, to me, this is one of my favorite styles of leadership, is when you can be vulnerable. And I refer to vulnerability as a spectrum. I'm not asking you to go stand naked at the company picnic in the middle of the field. That's not vulnerability. Vulnerability can be telling a story about your son who wanted to dye his hair. It can be, I slipped on the ice and hurt my butt. And has anyone else ever done that? You are
Mhm.
making yourself relatable. You're making yourself human. And those are the leaders that people can connect with. This is why I teach on LinkedIn, always have a little bit of your personal stuff in your headline. And so mine says wiener dog lover because I've got a little, her name's Poppy Long Sausage. I've got a little 8-pound wiener dog and I've got a bigger one. And then I've got twins. So it says mom of twins. The amount of
Mhm.
people that connect on those two things, because it's a softball, because it's easy and it's a great conversation starter, it makes people connect with me faster and they feel at ease. So when you can share these moments about your life and about yourself and about your family or your friends or your pets or whatever, you're going to be a better leader. It's those untouchable leaders that are never sharing anything personal. You can't figure them out. You can't get in. You just want to connect. And that's what leaders
Right.
need to remember. It's not a, you must respect me because I have this title. That doesn't really work. Respect
No.
is earned.
Right, right. I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. So you've had a lot of interesting people on your
Yeah.
podcast. And I'm sure there's got to be some really funny stories about doing all, because you've done like what, 122, 123?
122 tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes,
So, and
yes,
I'm fully booked into March of next year. So
yes,
it's, I mean, the people, I mean, first of all, most of them have become my friends, which is
yes,
like such a thrill to me. And they say they feel like they were talking to an old friend. So that means I did a good job.
yeah,
I
right,
love when I can make them cry. Of course, I say it like I'm doing something terrible to them. They just feel safe enough that they can. So that's a huge compliment. Um,
right.
but, I have had a couple of people that have shown up and they can't tell their story. And after 8 minutes of the first question and they're still going, I have to stop them and I have to say, I'm sorry, I can't use this. And it's a hard conversation to have, but I want everybody to be able to figure out, how do you tell your story? How do you do it in a way that makes you memorable, that is concise, that makes people want to learn more. And I spoke to a guy yesterday who's going to come on my show in March. And this is a super successful guy. He's run great companies before. I asked him to tell me his story. It was so boring, Annette. I don't even remember what he said. And I said, "Hey, can I give you a tip?" And he said, "Sure." And I said, "Can you make it more human? Can you talk about like the reason you started this
Mm,
was because something happened?" And he went, "Oh, yeah." Because the reason I started this company was because my CEO pulled me into his office and said, "You've got to stop micromanaging your team. You are making them crazy and they all want to quit." And he had no idea, but he was so
oh,
stressed
wow.
and so worried that he thought that was the only way to lead. And it
Right,
took that leader to make him realize there was stuff he could take off their plate. And so he built this framework to their operations style that really helped everybody excel, changed the way he led, and ultimately changed the way he built his company. But it took us a second to get there. But now I challenged him and I said, "I want you to record some of your stories and send them to me. And I'll tell you like how you're doing." But it's a really great challenge. He was so appreciative. And I've gotten to the point now where I've heard so many good stories that, and I like to pull out the good ones from people.
right.
It was a joy to do that with him. And he feels so much stronger and he wants to be on a ton of podcasts. I'm like, "You're going to be way better if you can tell your story well."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's fun.
That's really cool. You've had some famous people, you've
Yes.
had people get really vulnerable, and it's I've really enjoyed watching your podcast. I've learned a lot from them.
Oh, good.
So so what comes next? I mean, you got this new role,
Mhm.
continue the podcast, you got it booked out until March. I'm so impressed by that. And and is there another book? I mean,
No other book as of yet, although I never say never to anything because I don't know what's gonna come my way. And that's, I think, the fun journey of being an entrepreneur. Like, you just stay open and you keep connecting with people and you network all the time. Not to mention, when you surround yourself with people who are pretty extraordinary, great things come your way. So,
right,
through the Outlier Project, I got to lecture at Harvard, so I hope to be doing more of that. I should be lecturing at BC, Boston College, and more keynotes. But really, the focus is building out Intrigue and figuring out how we've got all these revenue streams. We've got a lot to build. I want to help more job seekers, but I really want to get in with these companies where we can kind of do some big numbers. And when a company says, I'm about to lay some people off and I want to take care of my executives, the greatest thing they could do to save face with their brand is to send them our way so we can arm
right.
them and equip these executives as they go out on their journey. And if you remember back during the pandemic, how everyone kind of over rotated and overhired, and they thought there was going to be all of this growth. The CEOs at Stripe, they did it right. When they had to lay people off, their brothers, and they said, "There's nobody to blame here but us. We did this wrong. We thought that we forecasted accurately, and we have to let some people go. If there's anyone that you want to be angry at, it's us. But you always have a home here with us, and we're deeply, deeply sorry. So when you come at it from that perspective, if you can pair that kind of messaging with what we provide, you're going to save your reputation. You're probably not going to get sued as much. And there's a lot of
Right.
litigious people out there in the world. There's a lot of age, gender bias. There's a lot of things going on in the world that when people are hurt, they want to respond. And you can save a lot of face doing that. Plus, those executives can land on their feet, and they might come to you for a recommendation of which you will gladly oblige.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, so that's really where my focus is right now. And I'd love to tell you that I know what I'm going to be doing 6 months from now. I expect I'll still be doing Intrigue and working on that. But where it goes, it could go in a lot of different directions. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited for you. I mean, it sounds like a great opportunity to take your skill set and put it where you're really helping people, which is what
Yeah.
you want to do. So that's exciting. So how would somebody reach you? I mean,
Oh, easy.
yeah,
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can always find me there. My website is heartbeatforhire.com. You can also find us at intricareers.com. It's INTRY. But I'm on Insta and Facebook and TikTok. The only thing I'm not on is X, and of course on YouTube. So would love for people to listen to the podcast or check out the books.
yeah.
Um,
And
the
I'll make
podcast is
sure,
called the Heartbeat for Hire podcast.
right, 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 which I definitely recommend
Thank you.
them watching a couple of those episodes because it's just really, really good. And you have a lot of cool posts. I love reading your post.
Thank you.
I enjoyed seeing the Outliers Project, how you met everybody at the Charles Head, which I didn't even know
Um,
was.
Oh, the head of the Charles. Yeah, it's like
Head
one
of
of
the
the
Charles, yes.
oldest regattas in the world, and, candidly, if any of us knew anything about rowing, it would have made it a little bit better, because we just saw some boats going by, we're like, "Well, that's exciting," and none of us knew, like, really what was going on, although I will say there was tons of eye candy, very tall people, and, they're all in their little outfits and their boats everywhere. It was cool. It's a very New England thing to do, and it was a beautiful day, but it was so much fun seeing
Yeah.
our
Well,
outlier
y'all look
friends.
like y'all were having a really good time. I was really jealous because
Yes,
the
yes,
weather looked spectacular. Of course, you're with all our friends
yes,
from top. So it was like, I wish I could be there. So
yes.
anyway, but
But isn't that a beautiful thing that we're in such a community that when you see people together, you just feel that joy and you just wish that you could be there for it? I mean, that was one thing. If I could give one bit of advice to anyone, I mistook my company for my network. And anyone who is in a corporate role, take some time to build and nurture your network. Your network is not your company. There is no such thing as job security. There's only career security. You have to build that for yourself. And when you take a moment to invest in other people and to comment on people's stuff, that is how you grow. That is how you build more connections, deep connections. And in my wise old age of 52, I did not expect that I'd be making best friends at this age, but that's what building my network has done for me. So pretty darn cool.
I think that's a great message. And because I made that mistake in my past where my network, my friendships was everybody at work.
Yeah,
And, you know, and when things kind of shifted a little bit, it kind of got hard because
yeah.
who do you go to? And if work is a problem, you can't really talk to the people at work.
No,
So, but I mean, that was one of the things that I just recognized. And I know I've been a member of the
for a
Outlier
while.
Project
Yeah,
for a little over a year, and I just started tapping
yeah.
into it.
Welcome
But
back.
yeah, and the timing is perfect because it was right at the time where I really needed this the most. So I'm excited about getting more involved and meeting more people like you because y'all are just such a cool group of people, and it's been an extraordinary journey for sure.
It really
Looking
is.
forward
And
to much more opportunities to connect.
I think you'll find them. And it's, every community is what you make it. So if
Right.
you sit back and you don't go and you don't show up and you don't engage, it's not going to feed you. But if you show up and you root people on and you share,
Right.
it will be incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, great. Well, okay. So, what is the last things that you want to share with the audience?
I would just like to tell you that if something happens to you, like you get fired or you get laid off, um, that is not your circumstance. That is something that happened to you. And how you rise up from those moments is up to you. And uh, it can be awful and it can be painful, but you'll look back on that moment and you'll have learned lessons you never planned. So surround yourself with people who lift you up, build that personal board of advisors, that PBA, and keep them close because these are the people who know what you're made of and who will kick your butt. And when you get presented with new opportunities that are like nothing you've ever seen before, you're going to want to check yourself and make sure that it's the right thing, and that it's on brand and that you really understand your why.
Yes, yes. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much. I
You are so
appreciate you
welcome.
coming. I appreciate your time because I know it's very valuable.
My
And
pleasure.
it
Happy to
was a
do it.
pleasure having you.
Thanks, Annette. You're the best.
All right.
Until next time, my friends, remember, as we continue to strive for excellence in both our professional and personal lives, let's always aim to elevate ourselves and those around us. Thank you for joining us on this journey of growth and empowerment, and keep reaching for new heights.